What's up, guys? Keyshawn Uchiha here, back at you with another, you could say, video. This will be basically an episode, so I'm just gonna say another episode. This will be pretty much episode one of Keyshawn Unstoppable. This will basically tell, well, what's inside my head, but basically, you know, y'all will basically hear not the origins of me, because I already did it in the zero point 0.1 video of the Naruto mix. But this will basically be about me, and you could say about me understanding you could say my adventures, my powers, and basically just understand about Kishan Uchiha and why is he so powerful and godly, and why is he so dangerous that either the gods don't want to kill him, or you could say want to fight him. But anyways, let's continue. So what is this going to be about? What is it going to be about? Is it going to be me being in an alternate universe in my universe? Well, it's basically going to be episode one of Keyshawn Unstoppable. So, well, we're pretty much going to start this bath of pretty much with Keyshawn Uchiha. Sorry about that, guys, but let's continue. So, what we're going to start this off, how would this basically be about, you could say, the origins, or somewhat the first ever part of episode of Keyshawn Unstoppable? And what would this contain? And will this be 18x part? Will it be sex scenes? Will it be violent gore scenes? And will it be, you know, anything of weird or gay shit or all that? Well, it's going to be a combination of everything. You could say a little bit of, sus stuff, non sus stuff, funny stuff, non funny stuff. You could say corny stuff and non corny stuff. But just sit back, relax, and whoever has a D4C stand, come watch the universe. Come watch me and my adventures around the universes and stuff and alternate universes. This will be episode one. So, what is the episode one title is? Pretty much, you could say awaken, or you could say, yeah, it would just basically be called awaken on episode one. But let's go. So we start with Kishan Uchiha, pretty much in the table, sitting with all the other gods, which all the other gods are looking at Kishan and pretty much waiting for his next move or what he's going to pretty much plan. Of course, this is where Kishan is basically sitting down and just pretty much having his eyes closed, but he's really asleep. This is where Kishan begins to open up his eyes and say, I'm bored, and gets up. Now, of course, this is where the gods are saying, begins to have a sweat and acts, which some gods don't have a sweat because, they're not that afraid. But this is where the god of, you could say, chaos, begins to ask Kishan, what do you think you're going to do? Which I begin to look at him with a non-serious look and says, well, I'm just going to go around the OT universe and do what I want. I'll come back when something's important. But other than that, y'all can do whatever y'all want. Which this is where the gods begins to, get up and go do what they want. Because whatever I say, they do you know, whatever I say. And I pretty much go. This is where as I'm going through the portal, I begin to fall out the sky, which I begin to say, oh shoot, I forgot to plan the good landing. And I begin to fall out the sky. Now, as I'm falling out the sky, this is where I begin to just chill. Begin to chill and say, And this is where I pretty much just shoot the web and start swinging. Because, like I said, I have everything. So I begin to start swinging around. Now, as I'm swinging around, this is where I pretty much land on a building. I pretty much chill at the building. Now, this is this is where, heroes, we're going to say this is heroes, stopping villains and stuff with quirks. Which I begin to say, So I pick random and this is where I end up to. Alright, I guess let's see what we got here. Now, of course, this is where I'm just teleporting in, just walking around until I see a kid getting pretty much walking home pretty much upset and stuff. And I pretty much walk up to this kid and ask why is he so upset. This is where he begins to say it's nothing, which I pretty much say, come on, tell the truth. Which he begins to say he got bullied at school for not having a quirk, which we all know and love is with Deku. This is where I begin to act. This is where I begin to say, well, do you want to have a quirk? Or have a power? Which he begins to say, what do you mean? Which I begins to say, well, I can give him a power. Ask any power you want, and I will give it to you. Which I begin to give him a smile, which he says he wants to have, a quirk that can help people, which I begin to say, hmm, okay, how about this quirk? Which pretty much this is where I tap Deku on the forehead, and he pretty much says, "What did I give him?" Which I begins to say, "Well, you're just gonna have to find out." Let's see. Which I begin to snap my finger and pretty much cause trouble. This is where a lady is pretty much, uh, well, we're gonna say this is where a lady and a couple of people is trapped in the building, and Deku sees that and he begins to say what he can do, which I pretty much say, "Go try out your quirk," which or your power, which this is where Deku thinks, what does that mean? And he begins to start concentrating, trying to figure out what he has. This is where he begins to sprout out some wings, which the wings are black and white, like mine's, and he begins to start floating. Now, this is where he sees a woman falling out the building, and he pretty much just automatically thinks and starts to fly and catches her, which he pretty much lands her down, which she pretty much thinks of him. And but this is where she says she has babies, which this is where Naruto, not Naruto, Deku flies up and pretty much goes in the building while it's on fire. Now this is where fire is everywhere, and this is where Deku sees the two babies and pretty much gets the babies. We're talking about 10 years old Deku, not a kid Deku, but 10 years old Deku. After we're gonna say get yelled at the whole social media and stuff and getting told at, yeah, pretty much we're at that part. And this is where he pretty much rescues the two babies, but this is where a wood branch, or we're gonna say a part of the building, falls down on Deku, and Deku pretty much thinks about, defecting himself, protecting himself and the children until he creates a nice, good barrier, a good rotation barrier, you could say, or a barrier that protects, which he begins to think he has a barrier now. But this is where he hurries up to get out the building and pretty much gives her the babies and start flying back and rescuing everybody else. Now, after he simply rescue everybody else, this is where everybody start thanking him and stuff and all that, and pretty much is praising him. And a couple heroes say, "Huh, I thought you didn't have a." Well, we're gonna say one of the heroes that was still on commission that was scolding him, saying, "I thought you didn't have a quirk," which Deku gets mad because we're gonna say Deku is intelligent and realized that one. It's like kind of some of the same heroes that is now praising him to join the company. He begins to look at them and with disgust and walks away. This is where Deku pretty much walks up to me and thanks me for giving him power, which I pretty much say anytime. And I begins to start, walking away and going to get some food or stuff. Now, we're gonna say pretty much this is where I pretty much find a hotel and I sleep. Pretty much just going in a hotel and chilling and stuff. And turn on TV, which I begins to look on the news and stuff, which pretty much this is where on the news they talk about a killer, a hero killer named Stain is pretty much killing everybody. Killing, well, not everybody, but heroes. Which I begins to say, and I pretty much appear right in front of Stain. Which Stain is confused of how I found his secret hideout and pretty much backs up and says, "I don't know how you got here, but I'm going to kill you," which I pretty much look at him and says, "Whoa, calm down, Stain. Don't pull out the knives." Which this is where Stain says, begins to slowly, calm down and say, "Okay, so why are you here?" Which I begin to say, "Well, Stain, I kind of wanted to, you could say, talk to you, and I wanted you to train someone." Which this is where Stain says, "Train who?" Which I begin to show, take out a picture and say, "This person right here." Which he says, "Deck, this person. Who is he?" Which I begin to say, "His name is Mizuki Midoriya. Do you think you can train him in your ways and make him a proud, good hero that's not just for shits and giggles?" Which Stain says, "Huh, you got yourself a deal." Which I pretty much give Stain money and telling him that, to train Deku, which he pretty much says, uh, you got yourself a deal, so he can get better equipment. Now, we're gonna say the next day, I guess this is where Deku is training with, not training with All Might, because we're gonna say All Might didn't really go to Deku. and asks him to be the successor, even though he saw the hero work with Deku saved Bakugo. We're gonna say All Might's still thinking about picking successors and stuff. But this is where Stain comes, because I'm gonna tell Deku to meet Stain at a certain location. And this is where, as Deku's walking in, this is where Stain jumps down pretty much about to stab Deku until Deku dodges out the way. It pretty much brings out, we're gonna say one of the wings, and it's the white wings, and he pretty much gets into, you could say, a defensive Stain. This is where Stain throws a bunch of knives at Deku, which Deku pretty much blocks him away with the wind, because we're gonna say he like lift or smack the knives away with his wings until Stain charges forward and pretty much cut Deku by the cheek. This is where Deku pretty much uses summons the other wings and trying to attack Stain until Stain backs up and pretty much licks the blood, which Deku falls on his knees and says, "What is this?" This is where I appear to say, "Well, Stain is pretty much your training partner now, and he's going to be your new training partner, so he can get you nice and strong for you to be the next good hero, the number one hero." Which Deku says, "You mean Stain, the legendary hero killer?" Which I begin to smile and says, "Yes." Now, of course, this is where Deku is saying, "Why should I train against him, a hero who kills?" Which I begin to sway explains to Deku that Stain is not really, well, a hero killer who kills like heroes who's, you know, he's killing heroes that shows off and not really using their quirk for anything but just being a show off, which and not actually saving lives. Which Deku begins to understand that, but says that's still not right. Would I pretty much tell him, listen, Deku, not all things goes as planned. It's right, you accept his training or not. Which this is where Deku says, okay, but he wants to get some training by me too, which I begin to say, alright. And we're gonna say those 2 months, not 2 months, I guess. It was like 5 months or 10 months, if I was correct. But pretty much this is where we get into the 10 months training with Deku. Now this is where, as I'm training Deku, I begin to help out Deku, use the unique powers of what he has. Now, I know what you're thinking. What powers does he honestly have that he has black and white wings? Well, I should probably tell you, it's one of my powers I have, and it's called Falling Angel, or you could say the Rise and Fall Angel. Now, what is the Rise and Fall Angel? Now, the Rise and Fall Angel basically has one black wing and one white wing. The white wing has many capabilities as an angel, as healing, flight, you could say healing, flight, summoning holy lights beams to pretty much, you could say, smite your enemies, can go forward and back in time on will. I mean, it all depends on how much power you have. I mean, how much, like, yeah, power you have. And it can do, like, all good powers. For the Dark Wings, it can pretty much summon fire. I mean, fire spikes up from the ground. It can pretty much rise the dead. Rise the dead can pretty much give plagues, cause plagues or diseases and stuff. Can take souls, and it can pretty much do a lot of dark things. That's not, that is supposed to be dark. But yeah, I begins to teach him the fundamentals of what they can do, and pretty much tell him that it's a form he can go into, but he has to get stronger for it. Which he says, all right. Well, I tell him specifically that the form has to be activated to hold on. Sorry about that, guys. I had to go to my name, but pretty much this is where uh this is where I explained to him that, listen, Decky, you have to go in, you have to have it at a last ditch effort to unlock this form. You have to really, basically, I tell him you have to have as shit hit loose. You have to have everything that's going crazy in 1 second, and that's when you will unlock it. Which Deku says, okay, and basically keep that in mind. And as he's going home, because this is the last month of training, he begins to start thinking and stuff, and starts thinking of how to really unlock that for him. And he's thinking like maybe if he goes back to time and have his childhood self, go through a massive, trauma, he can unlock it. But he begins to, hold that off for later. Now, this is where he's pretty much getting dressed and stuff and starts heading to the exam to pretty much get qualified for UA High. Now, as he's going there, this is where I'm walking beside him, and he's pretty much saying, "What am I doing?" Which I'm pretty much saying, "Oh, what do you think I'm doing? I'm pretty much trying to be in UA High." Which this is where Deku is saying, "You want to be joining in UA High?" Which I begin to say, "Yeah, got a problem with that?" Which he says, "No, no, no. I just never seen you have a power or a quirk before. You regularly just be using fist or hands or just dodging my attacks." I begin to laugh and say, "Oh, Deku, there's so much more about me that you don't understand." Which he says, "Okay." Now, we pretty much head in there, and Deku looks at Bakugo with a serious look of determination of, "I'm actually going to get in here." And I look at both of them and I say, yeesh, this is a tough look. I continue walking on, which Bakugo looks at me, giving me the serious look, when I pretty much look at him, right, stare back at him with a with a bloodlust content, saying, "Yo, don't you ever look at me like that again. Like, don't you ever look at a god like that again, or I'll kill you." Which he pretty much quickly, takes his gaze off of me and looks somewhere else. Which I pretty much say, "Better be." Now, of course, everything goes the same, but since I'm there, Deku with the weight thing, he pretty much lifted that with ease since I gave him the power of the rise and fall, or you could say the fall and rise form. So yeah, his strength is remarkable. His IQ, he's the first. I become second because what the hell? I'm very intelligent, but I want Deku to be, first because I'm not trying to let people know who the hell I am. Because it's just too much work. It's too much work sometimes. But this is where we get to the robots part. Now, as the instructor is explaining the whole thing, I begins to tell Deku that I have a challenge for him, which he says, "What is the challenge?" Which I tell him to use his Lightwing form instead of using his Darkwing form, because the Lightwing form is more like like a defensive, as for defending, healing, doing all that stuff, and all that good stuff. While the Darkwing is for offensive, as for killing, doing all that stuff, and just doing damage. Which he pretty much says, "What am I supposed to do with the defensive?" Which I pretty much says, "Trust me, the most defensive can be the most offensive." Which he begins to take that in mind and says, "All right." And he's about to write it down, which I pretty much tell him, "Write that down later. Right now, get serious." Which he says, "All right." This is where he spread his wing out, which everybody sees, including Baku's, in shock. And this is where I tell Deku to go, which the instructor says go, and Deku starts blitzing, passing everybody. Now, as he's blitzing and passing everybody, this is where Bakugo gets gets shocked about this and begins to try to catch up with Deku. Of course, this is where I'm pretty much just teleporting left and right, just pretty much destroying robots and stuff. Which some teachers are noticing me that I'm just teleporting and just touching a robot and making them explode and stuff, or not exploding them, but shutting them down. And they pretty much rewire up and begins to start focusing on the other robots and destroying them. So it's kind of like a warfare of robots destroying other robots, and after robots destroys the other robots, I guess some students come in and destroy the robot too. So, but the heroes are taking noticing, so he can control electronics and make them go against each other. Interesting. Now, of course, this is where Deku is giving his all, using his defensive, but healing, just punching robots and stuff, and also using the feather wings to shoot at the robots and destroying them. Now, of course, this is where Deku thinks he's done until the 0 point robot comes in and starts marching. Everybody's running away, except for Deku. This is where the girls start screaming at Uraraka, which I begin to look and say, what would you do here, Deku?" Which Deku says, "I got this." And he pretty much jumps up and, he pretty much jumps up and he says, it pretty much does his hands, pretty much lifts his hands up and says, "Miracle, Miracle Spite, which he pretty much spikes down a beam on the robot, pretty much destroying the robot, or pretty much turning the robot into ash. This is where Deku lands back down, helping her rocket and healing her room, asking if she's alright, which she begins to say yeah, and says thank you, which Deku pretty much says you're welcome and goes off. This is where me and Deku pretty much start walking and pretty much leaves the place. Now as we're walking, this is where Deku pretty much starts saying that did I see him out there, which I pretty much says yeah, of course. You did great. Which he pretty much thanks me again for giving him that power, which I pretty much say, oh, it's really not nothing, Deku. Just do good out there, become the number one hero, as we all want you to be. Which he says, you mean all? What do you mean all? Which I begin to say, oh, it's nothing. Which y'all guys know that I'm talking about the viewers right now, that's listening in right now of what's happening. But I pretty much smile and tells him, this do good. Which he begins to smile and says, see you later, which I says, see you later too. And I pretty much start going. Now, after that, this is where Deku gets an acceptance letter saying he's accepted in the UA, which I pretty much get mine, and I pretty much say, I already knew I was about to get in there. I foreseen it. And I say, this is less exciting. And I pretty much just, pretty much just takes the envelope and just put it in my pocket. Now, after that, this is where I pretty much wait for Deku, which Deku goes downstairs telling his mom that he's going to his first day of UA High, which pretty much she says goodbye, but she sees me, which I pretty much look at her and gives her a wink, which she pretty much blushes because I hit every lady with that look, and we pretty much start going. Now, as Deku pretty much is walking with me, he's pretty much talking to me and saying, "Do you think what would class UA 1 be?" Which I pretty much say, "Oh, it's probably just gonna be that one person who hates his father and just only uses ice quirk, and probably gonna be your friend, your childhood friend, who's just gonna have a fight with a person while we walk in there. Probably a nerd with glasses. Oh, Edon, if that's his name, which Deku begins to start laughing, saying, you think we might see those people?" Which I begin to say, yeah. Oh, we might find a little pervy kid too, named Mineta, if that's his name. Which I'm just making pretty strong, obvious guesses, but I know that that's what they're gonna be in the classroom. Which Deku was just laughing, saying, "All right, let's see." Now, this is where, as we reach there, as original in canon, this is where Deku opens up the door and he pretty much sees Egon and Baku fighting each other, and this is where Deku looks at me and begins to lift up, begins to look in her eyebrows and say, "Does this quirk? Does he have time future seeing as a quirk? Nah, that couldn't be." Which he's getting a, begins to lift up his eyebrow and trying to see what power do I have, you could say. Now, of course, this is where everybody else start coming in, and he sees Deku start seeing the person with pretty much the scar and stuff, which I was explaining. Which he begins to look at me even more and saying, "Who is he really?" Which this is where everybody started introducing himself. Where Deku starts introducing himself to everybody else. Which this is why everybody's trying to look at me and trying to get to know me. But I pretty much just mark myself out of there. So really, people is like not ignoring me, but really only like two people trying to know me. I mean, only like I'm gonna say Midoriya, like Deku was trying to introduce me to everybody, but everybody's trying to get to know him and trying to talk to him more because you remember that whole saving people from the building? Yeah, that got Deku recognition. So on the TV, so everybody saw Deku was trying to get to know what's his power or his quirk is. Which I'm pretty much just chilling, pretty much just on my playing on video games on my phone and stuff, and pretty much just chilling. This is where Manita comes up to me and say, "So, what's your name?" Which I begins to look at him and say, "Keyshawn, who are you?" Which I pretty much says, "Wait, I know who you are. Manetta, are you?" Which he says, "Whoa, how do you know my name?" Which I pretty much says, "Well, you're quite the legendary pervert who who does anything for a penny." Which well, I pretty much says who does anything for the for the pussy, you could say. Which Manetta pretty much starts blushing, saying, "No, no, no, I'm not no pervert." Which I pretty much say, "Ah, Manetta, you are, but it's okay. I grant you one wish if you tell me what color is her panties." Which Manetta begins to say, "Wait, it's pink." Which pretty much the girl has pink panties. Which I pretty much say, "Wow, you got it right. All right, what is your wish? To be tall, to have power, or to pretty much just change your whole DNA?" Which Manetta begins to say, "I want to be the ultimate guy." Which I begin to say, "Oh, so you want that? All right." And this is where I snap my finger, pretty much giving Manetta what he wished for. Uh, this is where Manetta begins to, well, a shiny light appears, and everybody begins to start, covering up their eyes and begins to look. This is where Manetta is that ultimate guy. Has long hair, have the muscles and stuff, have the abs. He's just looking like the ultimate guy. Like the girls wants to give up their virginities to him. That's how Manetta looks right now. This is where Manetta pretty much is saying, "Whoa, I like this one." And Manetta has that pretty much, that sexy voice. No homo edition. Pretty much, yeah. Which pretty much the girls are saying, "Whoa, Manetta, is your quirk?" Which I pretty much look at Manetta, gives him a wink, which he says, "Yeah, my quirk actually is like a mutation quirk. As at a certain age, I starts to turn into this." Which all the girls are saying, "Wow, you look impressive. You actually look hot." Which Manetta starts saying, "Ah, stop." Which he pretty much give me the wink, and I give him the wink. Which Deku saws that and pretty much looks at me, which I pretty much say, "Hmm," and I goes back onto my phone. This is where, of course, Razorhead wakes up, and he's pretty much looking at the whole class, saying, "Why y'all have to be so loud?" Until he sees Mineta and says, "Hmm, yeah, she looks hot." And he begins to think to himself, "Am I actually gay? Nah, I'm not." He just looks hot. Which he begins to stop thinking about that and says, "All right, everybody's everybody get their gym uniform off, gym uniform on, and starts how can I say, yeah." He starts to say, "Everybody get their gym uniform on. It's time to see if y'all worthy to be in class 1A." Of course, this is where uh Todoroki, not Todoroki, Edon, yeah, I guess Edon begins to say you can't do that, which he says, I just sorry. I spelled the whole class before, which everybody's shocked, including Deku, which I'm pretty much not shocked. I'm pretty much saying, "Okay," and goes back playing on my phone. Now, this is where, of course, everybody gets dressed in their whole gym uniform and goes outside to, not get expelled. Now, of course, this is me still on my phone playing video games and stuff, and everything goes about the same except for Deku gets in first about everything except for the ball throw. Me, I'm pretty much in second, but I came in first with the ball throw because, well, coming first tied with the ball throw with Uraraka because I'm just built different, you could say. And Deku's a little bit built different too, you could say. But yeah, this is where we go back to class, and everybody passes with ease, including Mineta, because, like I said, he's that ultimate Chad, so he has a different quirk. Well, different abilities that he's just finding out to do. Now, after that, this is where we're all waiting until All Might comes in, and everybody's excited that All Might's here, including Deku, because he doesn't resent All Might, but he's going to prove All Might that he's going to be the number one hero, no matter the cost. Which that's why Deku is motivated to train you harder and to become, that number one hero. This is where I guess All Might talks about the hero versus villain test, and everything goes about the same except with Manetta. Manetta teams win. Manetta team win instead of the other team. So yeah. I guess this is where the teams will be different with me and Deku because what the hell, since I'm an extra member to the class. And pretty much we start to go. Now, Deku's outfit's gonna be the same, except he will have the wings in the back. And he will have a fur, like a fur line. Or you could say a fur hoodie. You could say. Well, with the fur on the line. With his hoodie. But yeah. Pretty much, and my hero outfit, it's pretty much just gonna be my outfit that I showed in the 0.1 Naruto remix. I'm pretty much just walking out with Deku and pretty much talking to him and saying, "Alright, Deku, you ready?" Which Deku says, "Yeah." This is where I pretty much explains to Deku that I got I'm going to go get to the bomb while he pretty much fight with Bakugo and be a distraction, which he says, "Alright." He pretty much goes in the building while I teleport on top, which everybody's, shocked that I teleported and appeared right on top of the roof. But I pretty much go in there, start walking downstairs, taking my time while playing on video games. Which all my is intrigued of what quirk I have. What's also intrigued what Deku quirk has, since he made it so far. This is where sorry about that, but this is where Deku meets up with Bakugo, and Bakugo pretty much saying that he's going to destroy him and make sure he never walks again. Until Deku says that he's going to become the number one hero and show him that he can, he's not weak anymore. This is where, of course, Bakugo charges at him with an explosion quirk, or you could say put his hand forward and land out that grenade explosion. This is where, of course, Deku blocks it with his wings and pretty much disperses it, saying, "Is that all you got, Bakugo?" And he pretty much flies in front of Bakugo, pretty much kneeing him in his face, sending him flying into the wall. This is where Bakugo gets up and, of course, starts getting mad and, has his fight with Deku. This is where, of course, I'm going downstairs and pretty much comes to the right floor where the bomb and pretty much walk forward. Now, as I'm walking forward, this is where Edon pretty much stops and says that I'm not going to touch the bomb, which I pretty much say, "Alright, then I guess we can have a fight then." Which this is where Edon charges at me with running with his engine and is trying to go for a kick to kick me in my face. Or you could say go for a kick. This is where I pretty much teleport away from it and says, "Oh, you want to have an engine battle then? Then let me show you. Then let me show you." Which I pretty much start forming engines on my legs and stuff, and start forming engines on my arms. I say, "Shall we fight then?" Which Edon start getting mad, saying, "How dare you copy my quirks? Do you have a copy quirk?" Which I begins to say, something like that, but not really as a copy quirk. It's just the better version of your engines, which I pretty much goes in a mint speed and kicks, or you could say knee Edon in the stomach, sending him back a couple meters, making him cough up saliva. Now this is where he pretty much says, "I'm gonna kick your ass for pretty much taking my quirk," which I pretty much say, "Take your quirk. This is not your quirk. These are my engines. These are Galaxy engines, which we're going to pretty much say rainbow engines," which he pretty much gets mad because thinking I'm insulting them, which they're actually my engines, and I pretty much charge at him in the same speed. Well, pretty much in the same speed, but I increase my speed every time I fight him. Now, as I'm fighting him, I'm pretty much just increasing my speed tenfold and pretty much just kicking him left to right, knee him in his face 2 times. Then I pretty much do a swipe kick, swipe him on his feet, and then spin around and does a punch in his stomach, sending him flying into the wall, knocking him out. This is where, of course, I, you know, deactivate or, transform back. And pretty much all my isn't pretty much shocked that I pretty much copy his engines and then made him a evolved version of the engines that it can be, and pretty much undid them with quick ease. Now, this is where I'm walking to the bomb, and pretty much Deku already defeated Bakugo with his wings, or you could say with the power I gave him. And I pretty much launched the bomb, and heroes pretty much win. Now, after that, this is where you could say Deku is walking home. Deku's walking home. I'm walking home with Deku, which this is where Deku is pretty much asking me will I like to come over and have dinner with them, which I pretty much smile and says okay. Now this is episode 1 of Keyshawn Unstoppable. If you like, leave a like, comment, do all that stuff, and what other dimensions or universes you want me to go through next. I'm Keyshawn Chia. Thanks for watching, and peace out.
It looks like you lost another one.